A pleasant day to everyone. I am John Joshua Garces, a student in Central Mindanao University. Today, I will do a speech about what can be done to facilitate curriculum implementation. But before that, let me do the honor to say how important teachers are. Teachers provide the power of education to today's youth, thereby giving them by the possibility for a better future. Teachers simplify the complex and makes abstract concepts accessible to students. Teachers also expose children to ideas and topics that they might otherwise not have contact with. Teachers make the world a better place to live in. They set a tone of school, mentor and teach children and nurture them well. That's why the role of the teacher as a moral guide is critical in one's life. Today, we would know that only teacher can change the economic, moral, and social life of an individual. At this part, let us proceed to implementation of the curriculum learning. This may help the teachers to improve their way of teaching. Each subject can be done down into numbers of modules. For example, perceptual training and motor coordination are essential modules in the subject of perceptual motor training. The teacher might need to translate this module into concrete learning targets for actual teaching demonstration. For example, perceptual training and motor coordination are essential modules into subject of perceptual motor training. The teachers might need to translate this module into concrete learning targets for actual teaching in the classroom. It will be more beneficial to the children if these learning targets are defined in teachers of different types of outcomes such as skills, behavior, knowledge, attitude, values, and interest. And there is something I want to add, and this is the steps for planning learning targets. The teacher can plan the learning targets that make up the modules in the following 4 basic steps. And there are 4 basic steps that teacher can plan. First, specifying learning targets and behavioral terms. All learning targets should be expressed in observable behavior or skills. For example, when instructed, the children are to button their shirts with 6 buttons for 4 times. Each learning target in its written form should contain the following elements. Second, setting teaching priorities. A very important part of curriculum implementation is that the teacher should consider carefully the order in which learning targets should be learned. It is logical to put learning targets requiring lower levels before those requiring higher level skills. For example, teaching the children to draw lines before teaching them to write. In some cases, the targets themselves may form a definite sequence or hierarchy when the skills actually come in a continuous or chained sequence. For example, some higher level targets can be learned more quickly after the prerequisite skills have been mastered. For example, learning to write will become easier when hand-eye coordination skill has been acquired. It follows that unrelated targets that can be learned in any order. Third, specifying baseline assessment procedures. This is the specification of the procedures to identify the current skill level or prerequisite skills of the children. The assessment enables the teachers to know whether or not the children have acquired the prerequisite skills required for learning the target. Fourth, procedures for writing programs to teach target skills. With the prerequisite skills of the children known, the teacher can design learning materials to help them achieve the target skills. The learning material should be designed in small steps and in order of difficulty. The teacher should choose the appropriate step for the children according to their prerequisite skills. So, as to bridge the gap between their prerequisite skills and the target skills, at this juncture, let us proceed to the teaching approaches. Now, To teach target skills effectively, the following teaching approaches are suggested. There are 7 approaches, and these are modeling. Modeling. Children learn by imitating other people's behavior. Modeling, therefore, underlies most of their learning activities. The teacher can either demonstrate the behavior to be learned or point out the target behavior performed by other children and encourage the children to imitate it. Task analysis. Task analysis is the way to break down target skills into smaller steps according to the children's abilities and learning needs. The teacher can Task analysis. Task analysis is the way to break down target skills into smaller steps according to the children's abilities and learning needs. The teacher can then teach the steps in a planned sequence. Task analysis should be used with flexibility to help the children with further difficulties in learning and planned steps. The technique can also be applied to a blocking step to further break down the planned steps into even smaller steps for easier learning. Once the difficulty is overcome, the original teaching steps can be resumed until the target skill is achieved. Training. This means breaking down a target skill into a series of steps to describe the action to be performed in sequence. The sequence can be written in a forward or backward order, depending on the nature of the target skill to be learned. For example, most dressing and undressing skills can be taught by training. The more effective approach to teach dressing skill is backward training because this would ensure that the children will be able to complete the task. Forward training would be more appropriate in teaching target skills such as operating a washing machine or writing one's name. Discrimination learning. When the target skill to be learned involves choosing the right answer, discrimination is a more effective approach. For example, a child is given several choices from which to pick out the correct answer. In this approach, it is necessary to control both of the characteristic and the number of structures used. At the initial stage, the difference between the distractors and the target choice should be as great as possible and the number of distractors should be small as possible. That means the strength of the distractor should be low. Then a circle and a square and finally circle and an ellipse. As the child begins to master the initial step, the number of distractors used can be increased gradually. Information gathering. Children may sometimes lack the information required to analyze the problem they encountered. The teacher should teach them to gather relevant information from various sources. Example, teachers, parents, newspaper, or the library and help to develop a more objective and systematic way to deal with problems. Activities such as organizing a birthday party or a picnic would help the children understand the procedure of information gathering and its importance. Induction. This is an approach to help the children form a holistic concept from the characteristic of different things. The children are those trained to observe the various characteristics of things, their similarities, differences, as well as relationship, and then exercise induction. Lastly, discussion. This approach is often used in group teaching. Through discussion, the children learn to look into problems and are thus motivated to think. Through discussion, they express their own views at the same time listen to other children's views so that they can review their own. The teacher needs to ensure that each child is given equal opportunity to participate in discussion. Thus, discussion can promote greater interaction among the children. More importantly, still, they help the children to realize the importance of accepting others people's views while expressing their own. This is the end of my speech. I hope you've gathered some information and knowledge. Again, a pleasant day to everyone. Thank you.